Hello guys, welcome back to video number 3 in our introduction to Python series, introduction to programming with Python series. So in this tutorial, we're going to learn how to take user input into our program. So for example, we want to ask the user type in their name, and the user type in their name, then you can store that name instead of your program, or do something, or print the name out back to the user saying hi, maybe John. So for example, if I type in John, I can output hey, hi John, or something like that. So I want to learn how to take user inputs inside of our program. So before we even begin to take the user input, let's go ahead and first solve the assignment from the last tutorial. So the assignment from the last tutorial, when you're learning about variables, I told you to create a simple program that takes in 3 values, right, of your personal information to store your name, your age, and then finally your gender, right? So let's go ahead and actually write the solution to that. And once you have the solution to that, you're going to go ahead and learn how to take in user inputs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create another file in here. So I'm going to create another file at the root. I'm going to call it simple assignment underscore solution dot py. So assignment solutions.py, and is you can create it anyway. Basically, you can also keep it in the base folder, but I'm just gonna keep it outside here. So let's go ahead and write that. So the first thing I want to take is my name, so I can say name, and I'm going to go ahead and simply store my name as Prince. And I'm going to take my age, and I'm just gonna use, let me say that I'm 25 years old. Okay, and then finally my gender, so gender, and I'm going to say gender is my gender is male. Okay, so I'm going to say my gender is male right there. So good. So I have those information. I can also go ahead and print them out. I can print out my name. I can also go ahead and say print out my age, and I can also print out my gender, just like that. So we can print out the name, the age, and the gender of that person, right? So that's our assignment, and let's go ahead and run the code and see what we get back. So I'm just gonna clear my terminal and then go back one directory, and then ls, or equivalence on Windows is dir, right? So you can see we have assignment solutions.py file, and we're going to say Python 3 assignment solutions and .py, and make sure that if you're on Windows, it's just going to be py, right, and not Python, just py. But if you're on MacBook and on Linux machine, you have to say Python 3 and then space assignments underscore solutions.py. Okay, and then once I run that, you can see it's printed my name right here, my age, and then finally my gender. So good. So that was all you are required to do in that assignment. If you have any issues, let me know in the comment section below, so I can help you, or anyone out there can help you with your questions. And don't feel shy, just leave a comment in the comment section, because we are all learning here. Okay, so once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and create another file instead of my basics folder. I'm going to call it part underscore 03.py. So I have part3 file.py. Okay, so what are we going to be learning in here? We're going to be dealing with taking user inputs, right? So how do you take user inputs in there? So let me just go ahead and let me just write a comment in here. So this is how you write comments in Python. So comments are just blocks of statements that are meant for you to read, and the compiler, the Python interpreter is going to skip them whenever it's trying to execute your code. So it's just something like writing for yourself a personal note or something that to remind yourself. So the program is not that line of code is not going to be executed. It's just going to be skipped over. So we can just write a comment here. How you create a comment, you just go ahead and say you can press shift and pound sign the hashtag on your keyboard, or you can simply press control and then / on your keyboard. Okay, so control and / on Mac would be command and /. Okay, so you can also just hit shift and hashtag on your keyboard. Okay, so any way that you prefer. So once we have that, I'm going to say taking user inputs in Python, just like that. So to take user inputs in Python, we have an inbuilt function to help us to do that. If you know what functions are, don't worry, we'll reach that point of talking about what a function is. Okay, so to create a function, just say input and then simply pass in what you want to. So what you want to prompt the user. So let's say you're going to be asking the user to type in their name, right? So we can see here is even telling us that we need to pass in a prompt, and prompt is just the text that is going to be displayed whenever asking the user for a given input. So we can say type in your name, just like that. And once we have that, if I run the code, it's going to prompt the user to type in their name. So let's go ahead and actually run the code. So I'm going to go into my terminal, and then I'm going to go ahead and change my directory into my basics folder. And once I'm in there, I'm going to say Python 3, and then on Windows, make sure that you say py. Okay, and I'm going to say part, and it's going to be part3.py, and then I'm going to run that file. So you can see now it says type in your name, and I'm going to say Prince, and then press enter. So now our program just exits, right? Because we're only asking the user for the input. You're not storing the input anywhere. You're not doing anything with that input. You're just asking the user to type in the user input. Okay, so now what you are getting the user input, let's say that I want to store the user input in a variable. So we learned about variables already. So you're going to say give the variable a name, and I'm going to say equals to, and then whatever the user types in, right? So let's go ahead and run it again. Now, if I have the username, I want to go ahead and print it out. So I'm going to say print username. So whatever the username, whatever the user types in is going to be stored in this variable name, and I'm just printing out then what is stored in username variable. Okay. So once I'm in, I'm just going to go ahead and run the code, and I'm going to simply say prints, and you can see now prints is being printed out. So good. So that's how you can get user inputs and store it in a variable or do anything with it. So let's ask the user for their name. And now what I want to go ahead and say, I'm just going to go ahead and say the following. So I'm going to greet the user. So I'm going to say hello. Let's just say hello. And then finally, we want to add the user's name to it. So I'm going to say hello and then Prince or hello Jane, right? So once I have this done, let me just go ahead and run the code. So I'm just going to go here and run the code. So I'm going to say Prince, and you can see we get hello Prince or whatever name that you type. If you're again, I'm going to say Janet. I'm going to say hello Janet. If I go ahead and say hello, let me say John Doe. So I'm going to say John Doe, and it's going to say hello John Doe. So right something simple like that. So we're just going to take the string, you're going to take the string hello and then space, and then you're going to add to it whatever the username is. Okay, so you can actually add a comma here and say hello comma and then space and then the username. So hello and then print, something like that. So if I go ahead and run the code again, I type in print and it's going to hello print. So yeah, that's basically it. So once we have that, that's how you can take in user inputs and do different stuff with the user inputs. Okay, so let's say that I want to do something. So how do we know which type this input you're getting from it? Let's say that you want to specify the type of the type hint of this. So let me just go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and print the type of this. So I'm going to say print. I want to check which type of data it is. So I'm going to check the username. Is it a string? Is it an integer? Is it a float? How is this username getting stored? Okay. So I want to go ahead and actually run the code again and say print. So you can see print is getting stored as type as a string, right? str, and that makes sense because if I type in John Doe is not a float, it's not an integer, it's not a boolean, right? That's a string, right? So in Python by default, all inputs are taken as string. Even if I type in a number, the number will still be stored in form of a string. Meaning that, for example, if I type in 4 will be stored in a form like 4 will be stored in the form like this, like 5 using quotes, right? That's a string. So all user inputs by default are stored in form of a string. So you can just go ahead and say of type and then str. So str. So that's you can specify the type hints for it. So you can say of type str. So once I have that done, I can go in here. Let me just clear the terminal and run the code again and say prints, and you can see we are getting back the input, and now it's of type string, right? So okay, good. So once we have that state up, what you can simply go ahead and do is do the following. So you know that we're getting the input as a string. So how do we know? Like for example, I want to get a number. So let's say that let me just remove. Let me just leave the type in. Let's say I'm just going to go in. I want to create a simple calculator. So you say type. Let me just say type in a number. Just like this. So I want the user type in a number, and we can ask the user for two numbers and simply add something those two numbers, right? So I want just to get the number, and I want to add to it something. So I want to guess print out the result of adding to it 4. So whatever number the user type in, I want to go ahead and add to it 4. So let me just go ahead and also change the variable name. I can just say this is going to be user underscore input, just like that, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Copy this and simply change it here and also here. So great. So once I get the username, the user number, whatever the number the user wants to add, you're going to get that number as a string, right? And you're going to add 5 to it, and 5 is an integer. Can you add strings and integers together? Can you add 5 to the word hello? Is that possible? Now let's try it out. So I'm just going in the terminal and then run that, and I'm going to say okay, let's say 8. Okay, 8 plus 8, which is a string, plus 5, which is an integer. It's not, you can add a string to an integer, right? You can add a word to a number. And you can see Python is even giving you the warning. Can only concatenate string to a string. Concatenate is basically add. You can only add two strings together. You can add a string to an integer. That's because 5 is an integer in our code, right? So how do we go ahead and convert this into a form that we can use? So let's say that I want to get the user input as a number, and I want to add to it another number. I want to do the convert it from a string to a number. Is that possible? Yeah, is that possible in Python? We can do that in Python, and that's what we'll be covering in the next tutorial. So we'll learn how to do that in the next tutorial. Okay, so now what's the assignment for this tutorial? So what the assignment for this tutorial is, I want you to create a program that takes in your username, the age, and the city in which you live, and I want you to print it out on the screen. So that's all. Create a variable that's going to create a program that takes in your username, basically your name, your age, and then finally the city, and then print it out on the screen. That's all I want you to do. So it's very similar to the last assignment, but now you're taking the input from the user and not specifying it is within your programs, right? So yeah, that's basically it for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the tutorial so far, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section below or giving us any feedback. Also make sure that you like the channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload the next video, or you'll be the first one to get notified. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Keep safe.